Welcome to Story a Day, the series where I pull a tarot card and let its energy inform what story I tell. Today's card is the Page of Cups, and I'm going to be talking about the TikTok ban. In 2019, I received an email from a company known as ByteDance, which started in 2012 in Beijing, China. And in 2016, they really codified the TikTok we know today. 3 years later, 2019, was when they were really building out their creator programs, trying to onboard as many people in the online creation space and influencers as they could to make their content offerings, their user-generated content offerings, more robust. And I remember that email specifically, they were like, please state your niche and why you want to create in that niche and provide videos that we can evaluate as to whether you should be allowed to be in this niche. And then once I was greenlit for that, I started posting yoga videos to TikTok. It was the year I got yoga certified, so I was super excited to just be like sharing my passion for this. And I did that for months and eventually started even telling stories about yoga and then just stories in general that weren't related to yoga. And I was excited by the way my community was growing. It was a kind of community engagement I hadn't experienced before on other apps. And I loved that the material was very knowledge-based as opposed to Instagram. A lot of it is visual-based, and especially at that time was visual-based. 2020 hits and we're all devastated and inside and going crazy in our kitchens, learning how to bake bread from an online video. And so a lot of people were downloading TikTok. By August 2020, TikTok had over 100 million users. And so at this point, former President Donald Trump was like, I'm not comfortable with this app that is owned by people in China having access to the data of the American public. And also, I'm afraid that they are moderating in a way that is promoting either the beliefs of the Chinese Communist Party, which this was not like there had been no observed affiliation between the Chinese Communist Party and ByteDance, other than the fact that ByteDance was based in China. There was all this cybersecurity fear surrounding whether they were stealing our data and using it for more nefarious purposes. And so he's like, I would love for Microsoft to buy ByteDance, and that falls through. And instead, this company, Oracle, which does a lot of data management, they decide to create an alliance with ByteDance. They do a multi-year audit of TikTok's cybersecurity practices where they are keeping their data. They make all of the US data be kept on US soil. They have third parties come and conduct extra audits and just like really hunker down on how information is kept and how it's used. Mind you, every other social media company at the time does not have that strict of data regulations, like still don't. They will still sell your data for the highest bidder because they are American companies and they can do that. So there was kind of this double standard there. And then in February 2020, Biden administration is like, okay, it still hasn't been banned. They've done things to streamline the data security processes, and like TikTok is saying, like, we are complying with US regulations. Like, what's wrong? Like, why are you still trying to ban us? But the Biden administration still proceeds in banning TikTok from all federal devices. But that is not consumer devices. March 2023, the CEO, Xu Zichu, goes on the stand and he's like testifying as to how secure their data policies are in comparison to other apps. But still, the House of Energy and Calm was like, nope, we passed this bill to ban TikTok. In November 2023, the US district judge who was overseeing the TikTok ban bill was like, I cannot approve this because to do so would be such an abuse of state power and also a violation of constitutional freedoms. Cut to this month, March 2024, and the House of Representatives has just approved a bill to not allow TikTok to be on American consumers' phones if ByteDance doesn't sell to an American company. So what are we learning? Okay. The American public gets their information from American companies. Like, that is what the US government is trying to secure. On the one hand, they're saying, we are afraid that China will require ByteDance to hand over our information against US regulations and thereby arm China with data that can harm the US in a China versus US conflict. Okay. But then the US are saying, so we must own the access to this information. So we must moderate the content that you see, which I'm like, moderation is moderation. Like, either way, you're getting your information filtered through these screens that you don't know what the bias is going through them, and so when you're receiving it, it's going to be tainted with the color of whatever the bias is. Page of Cups, what we're discovering today. The Page of Cups is about curiosity, and it's about freedom. It's about being able to explore a new idea and feel through it. It's very sense-oriented because it's a cups energy, and the page, right, it's not a king of the space. It doesn't fully understand how to hold this fish in the cup. It's a slippery fish in the cup. Slippery fish. And so I just think about a slippery fish that is First Amendment freedoms. Like, I want to hold on to First Amendment freedoms, and I also want to receive information from everywhere, not filtered through a smoke screen. The sheer idea that a country should be able to dictate what its citizens learn is horrific. Because if a single country can control our methods of learning such that they abuse them to the point of taking away information that will inform us to act differently, to approach them differently, to elect differently, to relate with the entire system differently, then they are actively taking part in a mass control operation to secure power where it doesn't belong. Power belongs in the voices of those who have experience and can speak to what has happened to them, what is actively happening to them. Power belongs to communities who are cultivating new ways of operating in a world where it is so hard to keep on hoping that the systems that govern us will suddenly decide to act in our favor. If the slippery fish in this cup is our freedom to speak, to learn, to have access to information, then we must, at all costs, stay curious about how to keep that freedom. We don't know. We're just the page. We don't know how to sense through this experience. It's likely bringing up a lot of different emotions. But we can have curiosity about what correspondence and open communication looks like on the ground when we are aware of the act of manipulation that is being violently perpetrated across the world, but in America right now. It needs to be looked at with discerning eyes.